This is Matt Hosteller with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. Now we're going to demonstrate proper footwork. Stuart is going to show you how to move. The movement during a fight is extremely important. You always want to maintain your balance and your posture. So there's a lot of ways that you shouldn't move during a fight, and what we're not going to ever do is cross our legs. And anytime you cross your legs, you run the risk of being off balance by your opponent. So he's going to step forward for us with what we call a step and drag. Now, as you can see, his forward leg leads the movement and his rear leg drags behind. The reason that we do this is so that he always remains in balance. At any time he can react to something that his opponent does. He doesn't have to worry about regaining his posture or his balance. And taken a bit further, moving to the left and also moving to the right, it's the exact same technique. It's called the step and drag. The direction that you want to go, the foot closest to that direction always picks up and moves, and the other leg that follows it drags behind. This way you minimize the amount of time that your legs are more than shoulder width apart, which is what can lead you to being off balanced. This is Matt Hosteller with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. For this clip, we're going to demonstrate one of the foundations of your striking arsenal, and that's the jab. Before we get into the jab, we're going to spend a quick minute and talk about your partner who's holding the focus mitts. Jeremy has a pair of focus mitts for Stuart to hit, and Stuart just hit the focus mitts a couple of times. I just want to explain that the person holding the focus mitts or the other equipment that we're going to get into always offer a little bit of resistance when your opponent strikes the focus mitt. Don't hold it limp, because that's not going to help his drilling out at all. So again, just very quickly, when you're holding as a partner, make sure you offer some resistance for your opponent. Now, to get into the jab, Stuart is simply going to take his lead hand, and he's in an orthodox stance right now, and what that means is that his right hand, his power hand, is in the back and his left hand is in the front. They call that orthodox, I guess, simply because a majority of the people started out with it. The southpaw stance is for lefties, and the southpaw stance is just the mirror opposite. His power hand, his left hand is in the back and his right hand is in the front. So getting back to the jab, it doesn't matter which stance you're in, the jab is always going to be your lead hand. So the way that Stuart is going to throw the jab is to leave his elbow down as long as possible, and then the last minute curl up. That's the shortest distance between 2 points, a straight line. And it's not a knockout power type punch. It's simply a punch that's going to disrupt your opponent's timing. It's going to enable you to perform some combinations. And lastly, his rear hand is always up protecting his face. At all times when he's throwing his jab, you never want to drop your rear hand. You always keep it up. Same holds true for the other strikes that we're going to talk about. You never drop your other hand. You always stay in a defensive posture. And with the foot movement, when he throws the jab, you don't necessarily have to step forward. You don't even necessarily have to curl your foot, but you can if you want to. It all depends on the distance between you and your opponent. But you can simply throw the jab without moving anything, or you can curl your lead foot forward just a little bit. But you don't want to get into anything more fancy than that, because that's not what the jab is designed for. And that's the end of our discussion on the jab. This is Matt Hosteller with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. Now we're going to talk about the power punch known as the cross or the straight right. For the cross, this is your knockout caliber punch. Unlike the jab, where there's not a lot of power behind it, for the cross or the straight, there is considerable power behind this strike. The way that Stuart is going to begin the motion of the strike is not with his hand, and that's a very important concept to learn if you want to strike with power. He's going to start the motion by pivoting his rear leg, and what that's going to do is that's going to straighten up his hips so that they are facing his opponent. That power is going to transfer up and out of his hand, and finally he's going to extend his back arm, his right arm in this case, and that's going to create a lot of power, and that's what's going to make the cross. So again, if you're holding, offer a little bit of resistance for your partner as he strikes the focus mitt. So as you can see, it's a lot more than just throwing a punch with your hand. It all starts with proper footwork. And the way that you know that you've got an effective cross is if at the end of the punch, if your hips are lined up with your opponent, that's an effective cross. All of the power is being transferred up and out. And again, his lead hand at this time, his left hand, always remains up, protecting his face. I can't stress that enough. Always want to protect your face with your non-striking hand. And that's the end of the discussion on the cross. This is Matt Hosta with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. Now we're going to talk about the front hook and rear hook. Now these are strikes that also carry a lot of power. They can be knockout blows, and both the front hook and the rear hook have enough power to possibly damage your opponent, maybe even knock him out. So starting with the front hook, the most important thing about drilling this is the holder. I know that sounds funny, but if he's not holding that focus mitt properly, he's not going to give you the correct angle to strike in practice. So as you can see, Jeremy has the focus mitt completely perpendicular to his body. That gives Stuart a proper target to hit. Now, the same with the cross. The hook, it all starts with the foot movement. So for the front hook, he's going to pivot his front leg all the way, and that's going to lend it, that's going to transfer the power. This power is going to start from the leg, come all the way up the hips and out the arm, and end at the opponent, hopefully his chin or jaw. So another important thing that Stuart's doing when he just hold the hook after you've struck the bag, you can see his lower arm is completely parallel to the floor, and his elbow is behind his strike, and he's also, you can't see because he's wearing his gloves, but his hand is held at this angle. It's not held with the palm down, but rather it's held with the palm facing you. That's just an easier, quicker way to deliver the hook. And you're not going to have an effective hook if you, go back up please, if you have your elbow up or if you have your elbow down, you're going to lose a lot of that power that you generated by spinning the hips. By keeping your elbow completely behind your fist, all that power is transferred out into your opponent. Now, for the back hook, everything is almost exactly the same. If you want to turn to face the camera. Now, the back hook, again, the whole process starts in the legs. He pivots his back leg and comes up and around. Everything I said about the front hook holds true with the back hook. He's got his lower arm parallel to the floor. He's got his fist with his palm facing him, and his non-striking hand is what? It's protecting his face at all times. And that is a demonstration of the front and back hook. This is Matt Hosta with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. Now we're going to move on to uppercuts. One of the most important things when you're drilling uppercuts, again, is how your holder is holding the focus mitts. Now you saw for hooks, it was perpendicular to the holder's body. For uppercuts, he's going to keep the focus mitts right at chin level and straight down. That's going to enable Stuart to have a proper angle of attack. So leading off with the front uppercut, again, the punch is going to start from the feet, and it's going to carry up into the focus mitt. He's going to slightly pivot his front leg forward, and as he does that, he drops his base a little bit. You don't necessarily have to drop your base, but it will give you more power if you put a little bit more of your core into the strike. And because the path of the uppercut is straight up, that's another reason why dropping your base will allow you to transfer some more power into the strike. So a couple of strikes with the front uppercut, Stuart. Now, as you saw, the strike is going straight up. It's not coming at any angles. You're aiming to go underneath your opponent's guard and travel up and hopefully hit him right in the chin or the jaw. And the leg movement is what is going to enable you to have good power. Now moving on to the rear uppercut, if you guys want to switch up. Again, everything, it's pretty much just the mirror image. He's going to pivot slightly off of his back leg, dropping in base as he does that, and then he's going to deliver the strike. Now, one important point to make is not to exaggerate the strike. You don't want to travel it all the way up to the top. You bring yourself out of position. That's not necessary. The critical part of the motion pretty much ends right as you pass his head level. And it enables you to recover your guard very quickly as well. So with that, you can see that it can be a knockout. It can be a very effective strike that travels inside your opponent's guard. It's a close-range strike. You can catch him. It's hard to see this coming if it's executed properly. This is Matt Hosteller with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. For this clip, we're going to demonstrate the front kick. This is a very important kick in striking arts. It's basically equivalent to a jab, but delivered with the leg. The way that you deliver, the proper way to deliver a front kick is to hit with the ball of the foot. First and foremost, you don't want to hit anybody with your toes. You'll end up breaking them or hurting them. So the first thing I wanted to point out is to get in the habit of curling your toes back when you deliver this strike. Now, what Stuart does first is lift up his leg to chamber. He's chambering the kick right now. Now, from this point, he literally delivers straight out directly at the kick pad that Jeremy is holding, and you notice with the kick pad he's got the threads facing him. You don't want to hold it the wrong way. It could potentially have the guy cut his foot. You don't want that. So again, stressing the proper way when you're drilling, the proper way for the partner to hold the equipment. So again, deliver the front kick a couple of times. Now, as you noticed, Stuart was never off balance when he delivered this kick. Again, you want to always remain in balance. This front kick can come into play a lot of different ways. You can use it if the guy's walking towards you and you just want to back him. If your opponent's walking towards you, you just want to back him up, kind of same thing you would do with the striking jab, or you can use it on offense. It is a very widely used kick, and thrown properly at the bare minimum, you'll disrupt your opponent's timing. If you're lucky, you'll give him something to think about. If you hit him in the right spot in the solar plexus, maybe knock out his wind. But again, the whole concept is to curl the toes back, land the kick with the ball of the foot, and lastly, hip movement. Again, you want to transfer as much power as possible into this strike. So it's harder to demonstrate this at slow motion, but Stuart, if you want to give the bag a kick at full speed and with good hip movement, more hip action. There. Again, the core of his body, you want to transfer that out. So you really want to get the hip movement into this strike. And that's the discussion. This is Matt Hosteller with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. Now we're going to demonstrate the proper way to execute a low kick. This is a very popular kick in mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, any type of striking arts, because it carries a lot of power and you can really damage your opponent with leg strikes, where you strike to his leg. Now, the back low kick, it's more advanced than it looks. There's a lot of components that, if not done properly, it will not be an effective kick. So first and foremost, when Stuart throws a back low kick, he wants to step. The first thing he has to do is step into his opponent. And that way, that puts him in the line of fire. The way he does that is he opens up his hips by stepping out with his front leg. When he opens up his hips, he's chambering the kick. He's giving himself a wide angle to swing from, and he's also putting his opponent more in the line of fire. After he opens up his hips, the next movement is a quick movement with the back leg directly at the pad, making contact with the shin. You do not want to make contact, right, that's the proper place you want to make contact. You do not want to make contact any lower than your instep at the very lowest. Ideally, you want to make contact with your shin, and you want to strike straight on, not with the side of your shin. In order to do that, you need to be able to rotate your hips. So again, now at the end of that strike, his whole body was facing away, and that's pretty much the only way you're going to get the full power into that kick. A couple of things that you may have noticed is known as the slice. The same side arm that he's delivering the kick, he drops, and that's to counterbalance himself so that he can recover his base. If he kept both hands up as he swung, a lot of times there's too much momentum going that way, and it's hard to recover your base. And remember, a successful fighter is always thinking defense, even when he's on offense. And you can't think defense if it takes you a long time to get back into your guard. So that's the reason for the slice. And again, it bears mentioning, his other hand never leaves his head. When he throws the low kick, you always want to keep your other hand. I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. You always want to protect yourself at all times. So this is in a snapshot, that's the tail end of how a low kick should look. Now if you want to switch around real quick, we'll do the front low kick. Now the front low kick in a fight, typically a front low kick will target the inner thigh of your opponent. In a fight, just very lightly, show without the pad where that is. If both you and your opponent are matched, meaning you're both in orthodox, which means that your right leg is back, or if you're both in southpaw, which means that your left leg is back, then your front low kick is going to attack the inner thigh. And that, again, it can cause a lot of damage. I wanted to point that out, but for the purposes of the demonstration, we're attacking the equipment itself. But the front low kick, a lot of people don't use this, and they really should, because even though you can't generate as much power as you can with the back low kick, it's still very effective. And again, it all begins by opening up the hips. Stewart steps with his back leg, and he steps outward so that he opens up his hips and gives himself a wide angle to rotate his attacking leg. And just like the back low kick, you want to land rather with the shin. You do not want to land your kick with the instep or anything lower than the instep because it'll end up hurting yourself. And again, just like we talked about with the back low kick, he's slicing. This time it's the left arm that's doing the slicing to counterbalance him, and his right hand is protecting, it's up at his face the whole time. So with that motion a couple more times, you'll see you can still generate enough power to damage the opponent or to make him step back to set something up. Again, both the front low kick and the back low kick is a very important attack to have in your arsenal. This is Matt Hosteller with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. For this clip, we're going to demonstrate the proper way to throw a round kick. Now, Jeremy now has the tie pads, and again, you have to offer some resistance for your opponent when you're holding for your opponent. Now, for the back round kick, the way that you begin this kick is similar to the low kick that you saw in the previous clip. Stewart's going to open up his hips to give him, he's going to step out with his front leg, and you step out at an angle, and that's going to open up his hips to give him the proper reach to get a full swing. Now, you saw that went very quickly, but again, you saw that he's making contact with his shin. You don't want to strike, you don't want this kick to land with your foot or your toes. Yes, exactly. You want this kick to land with the front of your shin. This, depending on how limber you are, this kick can hit your opponent anywhere from his stomach or his rib cage all the way up to his temple. It really depends on how limber you are. You can deliver this kick all over his torso it can cause damage. Jeremy is holding, as you can see, he's holding the Thai pad at a downward angle. And what this is going to do is it's going to force Stuart to have to use his hips properly to deliver this kick. It lessens the likelihood of this becoming a snap kick being where the kick ends by the time it hits the opponent. We don't want that. What you want to do is kick through your opponent, and the way to kick through your opponent is proper hip movement. And he's still got, he's holding back a little bit on this kick, but he's still got a lot of power that would, if Jeremy's body were right here, he would be kicking through his body. And again, same way with the low kick. He's slicing with his same side arm. He's slicing again to enable himself to bring himself back into position, and his front hand is always up protecting his face. So again, he's not letting down his guard. He's letting down his guard as little as possible while he's delivering this effective offensive. This is Matt Hostetler with Capital Jiu-Jitsu. For this technique demonstration, we're going to be showing you a knee strike. Now, Muay Thai is unique in that there's more than just feet and more than just fists. And another effective target of attack is your knees. That can be, it's a very damaging strike if thrown properly. So the way that we're going to demonstrate this knee strike, this is going to be a rear knee strike. That means his back leg is what's going to be the attacking point. Now, to begin this, he's going to step out slightly with his front leg, just to position himself such that the knee is going right into the center of Jeremy's or your opponent's body. In this case, it's Jeremy holding the kick pad. So after he opens up his stepping outside slightly with his front leg, he's going to bring his back leg up and into the kick pad. Now, a couple of things happen there. If you saw his hip movement, and this is very crucial because when you're to maximize the power, you really have to visualize kicking through your opponent. In this case, he has to picture himself almost kneeing through the opponent's spine. So walk up and deliver the knee strike again. And if done properly, you will cause the holder to have to step back to recapture his balance, because you can bring a lot of power with this knee strike. Now, a couple other things to mention. His kicking foot is pointed straight down. You want to have one line, one angle going straight in. You don't want to keep it out or flat-footed. You're going to give yourself more power to keep it tightly tucked in and have the foot pointed straight down. Secondly, when he lands this knee strike, his plant leg, he's going to lift his plant leg up off the ground just to give him some more power into the strike. All these things come into play, so it takes a while to perfect this movement, but it is a very popular attacking point in Muay Thai and mixed martial arts. The knees, you can throw the knees from all kinds of different angles. We're just demonstrating the basic form of the knee strike. And lastly, his arms. Now, for the purposes of the demonstration, when you're drilling this, even when you're drilling it without your partner, to help you with the balance, his opposite side arm is raked across his head, and his same side arm is down. When you begin to practice this, you'll feel what I'm talking about, but it gives you the balance that you need to be able to lift up off the ground and deliver the strike with a lot of power. Good. And a good knee strike, like I said, you'll notice because your opponent, the holder, will have to get his balance back. And so with this demonstration, with this last technique, that finishes up our illustration of some basic Muay Thai, basic striking. There are plenty of other strikes that we haven't covered, but these basic strikes and kicks and punches will give you a good foundation in which to begin your training in this very popular and very effective martial art.